Ilona, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I just went a little weird in my pitch. Thank you for coming in. I don't know why I did that. I had that deep kind of a sexy voice going on there, then I went all weird.
You just got so excited.
I know, I did.
Like, Ilona's here. Oh my God.
You know what? I am actually excited to do this with you. Because I don't know your full story, but I have seen you on social media. And that's really the kind of the cool thing about, I would say, everything that's happened in the last few years of how powerful social media can be and how it's connected so many interesting people to come together, create businesses, share ideas, and navigate this incredible journey that we're all on. And I think it is a cool journey that we're on. Whether it's ups or downs, I think you have to embrace it.
1000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, what's keeping you busy? Actually, before we get into what's keeping you busy, I want to dig more into your past, because I don't know a whole lot about it. But not just like how you got started into real estate investing. Yeah. Let's dig a little deeper.
Okay.
Like, what was your childhood like?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, was there any kind of like entrepreneurial, upbringing? Were your parents into businesses? Did you see things that you liked that you didn't like and then used it to your advantage?
Yeah, totally. And it's so funny that you're going that far, because I've been thinking about that a little bit recently. And these things come up during conversation, right? How do you serve, my number one thing is how do you serve others? And there's a quote from Rory Van, I can't remember his last name, but I remember him saying, "You are in the best position to serve the person you once were." So, yes. Right? And so it made me think, like, where did I come from? I'm so grateful to be here where I am. And not that I don't think about this often, but back to the childhood, like, what was that like? And what was that person? Well, who was that little girl? How can I help that person, right? And then how can you translate that into your kids, right?
Because you know that journey the best. Exactly. You know the struggles that you went through. And, sometimes even when I sit down and talk to someone, I'm like, I know where you're at.
Yes.
You can relate to it.
And that person feels safe with you, because you're not just teaching them from a stage. You're like, I'm connecting. So I really love that connection on 101. But back to your question, yeah, I was born in Poland. I'll start there. And we came to Canada when I was 4 years old. It's funny, when we moved here, I was like, oh my God, we like, this is it. We did it, like, we're moving from there. We lived in a bachelor apartment with, the whole family slept on the polo couch, right? And we moved here into a 2-bedroom apartment building. Like, we won the lottery. Like, this is great. Like, what is this country? The cars look nice. Like, there's highway, like big highways. Like, you think you made it, right? And later to find out that was actually subsidized housing that we were living in Scarborough, right? So it's all about perspective. And
yeah, that's interesting to hear that perspective. Mm-hmm. I've never heard like that, quite the way that you said it. But yeah, I guess that's the way that you would look at it. Yeah. That you hit the lottery. Yeah. I went from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom.
It's an immigrant story, right? And luckily I'm so happy and grateful that I'm able to remember that contrast, because that was a big contrast, right? And like you were saying, we were just talking earlier about the journey. It is a journey. And I couldn't have told that little girl, do you know how good life is going to get? I wouldn't have been able to fathom. I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I live in subsidized housing now. Like, I'm going to be here forever. Like, this is awesome. So it unfolds, right? And so my dad was in the trades, and my mom worked at a Polish deli, like, very humble beginnings, My parents got divorced when I was young. Didn't have a great example of what a loving relationship was. And then, we ended up moving with my dad to Mississauga. And that was kind of the first, the real estate thing, popped in, and I had a little bit of awareness because my dad had bought a pre-construction house, and he bought it for $189,000, semi-detached. Oh, I don't know, it was like in grade.
So like in the 80s?
Grade 9, yeah, 90s,
90s,
like late,
okay.
Probably late 90s.
Okay.
And then a couple of years later, when we sold it, it was worth double what he bought it for. I'm like, we made more money living in this house than my dad did busting his, all day, every day, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. And because my awareness wasn't that strong at that point, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go buy real estate tomorrow, but it left an impression.
It piqued an interest.
Yeah. And so when I was 19, I met my ex-husband, and that's kind of what we started to do is like, you know, we bought pre-construction. I'm like, there's so much value here. Like, this is a no-brainer. When people talk about now, oh, this was my strategy, my pre-construction, this was no strategy. I was like, hello. Like anybody with common sense would have known, right? So we did that, and we got married. My ex, we got married. We had 2 kids. And then fast forward to, I was 30 years old. I had a separation, a really ugly divorce. Like, it was, I don't talk about that. And, you know, lately I've been thinking about talking about that because so many people are in that situation that I see now. And again, back to, you're in the best position to help the person you once were. I'm like, those were really dark times for me. You know, I had no idea how I was going to get through that.
What do you want to share it? Or parts
yeah,
of it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years. I was made to feel worthless almost my entire marriage. And so getting out of that when you're so in it, and I see people that are in it that are really struggling to get out, and I find that something sparks something. There's a desire, right? Because all the life experiences that we have, and good or bad, are contrast, right? It's like you don't know you want 3 bathrooms until you live in an apartment with 1 bathroom. You're like, okay, now I need 2, right? So we have to go through that journey. We have to go through that contrast. But sometimes we get stuck, right? And sometimes we're just in it until something happens. And usually it's, you know, sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's something really bad, sometimes it's something really good. Sometimes you go to an event and you get inspired and you're like, why am I living this life?
So what was it for you then at that time?
You know what? I started going to the gym. And I just thought, because I'm doing 75 hard, I just remembered, I'm like, where did this really start? Again, putting intention into how can I use my journey that was so painful to me, but now being on the other side and getting messages on Instagram, like, you look so happy, you're glowing. I'm like, I just want this for everybody. And I wish people would know, like, it wasn't always like this. In fact, not too long ago, it was very different.
So going to the gym started it.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? So I went on a walk this morning. I like going for walks in the morning, like around like 6:37 in the morning, just to kind of just clear my head. I do a little bit in silence, and then I also will try to find a little bit of a motivational YouTube video to listen to. And there was one that I was listening to this morning, and it talked about the gym. And it talked about failure. And that every time you go to the gym, what you're doing is you're actually failing because you're pushing your muscles to the limit to say whatever it is, 10 push-ups, and you're trying to get to the 11th and you can't, and so you failed. But what you're doing is you're building that muscle up so that when you go back to the gym again, you can get to 11 or 12. And I think the approach is, if you look at life like that, as failure, that you embrace that. You use that to keep pushing forward. Because you do it all the time anyways if you go to the gym.
Yes.
So use that in real life.
Yes.
I thought that was actually very powerful.
That is very
and
powerful.
So that's a great correlation of what you just talked about, that the gym woke you up.
Yes.
Because now you're pushing yourself to say, what can I do?
That's
and
right.
if I can do this with my body, what else can I do with my mind? And what else can I do with life?
That's right. Exactly. And even just getting to the gym, right? Like, that's half the battle. So going back to your failure, I posted a quote the other day. It says, you cannot fail unless you stop trying, right?
Correct.
So you're not going to fail at getting that body or that business or that whatever until you say, you know what, I failed, it didn't work out, I'm going to stop trying now. That's really when you fail, right? Yeah. And so when I started, a lot of it was, changing my habits. And people don't realize, like, most people are on this, hamster wheel every day, same thoughts, same things, same habits. They don't even know how to get to work. Uh-huh. Like, how did I get here? So mindless. Everything is just on repeat, right? So for me, the gym served as, a wake-up call in my routine, daily routine. I was doing something for myself for once. Like, my kids were still small, 2 and 5 years old. I was doing something to better myself, right? I didn't grow up in a house where, education was, really reinforced, or my parents were immigrants. They couldn't help me with my homework. Like, as long as you pass, you're fine. There's no, pressure to do or be or whatnot, right? We're just trying to get by. And so once I started showing myself, I can do things that I commit to doing, and small things like going to the gym, right? and then you start feeling better, then you're surrounding yourself with people that are also on a journey of self-improvement, and having those kinds of conversation, and then it becomes addicting. You start working out, then you start watching what you're eating, then all of a sudden you're taking supplements, and then this and this and this. So it just starts a snowball effect.
I wanted to step back just a little bit. What word would you describe where you were before going to the gym?
Ooh.
There's a negative word in there.
Yes.
What was it?
The first one that comes to mind is hopeless.
Yeah.
And I think my marriage, I felt defeated. Like there was nothing really, like there was nothing left for me, right? Like my purpose was to get married, take care of a husband, have kids, and just kind of put up with the rest of it, right? There was nothing I was reaching for. There was nothing I was looking forward to. And so the gym gave me that. It just automatically made me think of all these new goals, right?
Yeah. Mine was disgust.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was disgusted with where I was in my life. Yeah. And I think why I want to bring that up is that if people think of the word where they are right now, if they're not happy with their life, use that word as fuel, as opposed to negativity, as opposed to keeping you down. Because that word hopeless, you're almost at the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to stay there if you decide to. But you can also use it as rocket fuel.
Yes.
To get you out of that area of despair and disgust and hopelessness, which is what you did, which is such a powerful story.
And so the next thing I did was I made a vision board.
Vision boards are important. Vision boards, whiteboard, writing down what you want. So how did you do it?
So, the gym thing happened, and again, like you said, words have such a big there's so much energy in words, and even just how we understand words. And I'm so mindful about what I say to myself, the thoughts that I'm thinking about. Is it negative? Is it positive? Because most of the time, and there's an emotional scale, right? Joy and love being on the top, and then, resentment, anger, frustration, all those things being on the bottom. So I started learning how to become aware of where I was. And I'm like, what emotion am I feeling right now? Because your emotions translate to your physical being, right? And when people feel anxiety, people are physically feeling that feeling, but it starts with thought, right? So where am I in my thoughts? How can I become more aware of what I'm thinking about? And if I'm feeling hopeless, how can I climb the emotional scale a little bit? Can I be, content? That's a better feeling than hopeless, right? Can I say to myself, that's why gratitude journaling is so important, right? Because you ground yourself, and I have a roof over my head. My kids are healthy. We have food to eat. That's a lot more than a lot of people can say, right? So grounding yourself there, and then choosing a new thought instead of focusing on the disgust. Because then once you focus on the disgust, that's all you can think of, and the momentum keeps building, right, in that direction. And all of a sudden you're attracting more thoughts.
What made you come with the vision board?
I heard about it, and I'm not even sure that I believed it in the beginning, to be honest. I'm like, okay, I had nothing. I was so hopeless, and I'm like, I'll just try anything. I'll try voodoo at this point, whatever. Like, I'll get one of those dolls and like start poking them, and maybe I don't know, know.
It's that's such a similar story to mine as well too. Like I was like, fine, I'll just try it. I don't know if I believe this thing, but I'll try it anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of pressure too. I find, like, I did put effort into it, obviously, and I went through with it. But if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. Like, so there's not a lot of resistance in achieving those things, because all of a sudden you're wide open to receive them, because you're not really expecting, right? And so I started reading the first, like, I call it my gateway drug into self-development, was You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And it's such an easy, like, if you've never read anything about mindset, that's a great start. It's such an easy read. It's fun. It's like having a conversation with a friend, right? So there was a lot of exercises above the vision board that were in her book that I just started doing, like rewriting my beliefs and doing the vision board. And really all I wanted on the vision board, there weren't really many materialistic things. Although I did have a car on there, which I now drive, by the way.
Nice.
So
what's the car?
It's a Jaguar.
Beautiful.
And but most of the things were, I want to be happy. I want to be independent. I want to be successful. I want to be a good mom. You know, I did have a house on there that looks very similar to the one I have now. Crazy, right? It sounds crazy, but it's this. I'm just telling you the facts. But most of the things were about, how do I want to feel? Because if I have control over how I feel, I'm going to put intention into what I do want to feel versus put all my attention on where I am. I'm stuck. This is the craziest divorce. My husband got arrested 4 times already. Like, it was insane, like insanity. If I had focused on that, I had to make space. Just like you said, in the morning, you go for a walk, you have quiet time. How many people have those habits? Like, I'm grateful, and I'm sure, you know, you have a similar experience. The people that are closest to me have those habits, have those rituals, and we get to have these kind of conversations, and everybody's growing, and we don't talk about other people. We're talking about growth. We're talking about development. We're talking about, hey, I read this book. Hey, we're exchanging information, but how many people actually have the benefit of having that?
Yeah.
Right.
And like, you know what's so powerful about all this as well too? Because when I asked you about your business when you first came in, we'll get to this later on, and I said, so how? And I go, so how's the interest rates impacted you? And what did you say?
The interest rates don't impact me.
That's just a change in your mindset.
Yeah.
That's just a belief. Like,
that's right.
And I talked about this before. Jim Rohn said, as he goes, this also really impacted me. He goes, it's not that it's too expensive. It's that you can't afford it.
That's right.
And then that's like another internal look inside you of, what am I doing? And if there's people at this time that can't afford it, what are they doing and how are they doing it? You know, and Tony Robbins also said too, just because the economy is bad doesn't mean your economy has to suffer as well too.
Exactly.
And that's just a shift in doing things differently.
That's right.
Right.
And taking inventory of your beliefs, because your beliefs end up showing themselves over and over and over again in your life, right? You believe something to be true. Oh, there it is. Oh, there's confirmation of it.
Right.
So if I find that a belief is not serving me, for example, I have a mortgage, I have properties, but if that belief of, oh my gosh, the interest rates are going to do that's making me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, what do I believe about this? What am I thinking about this? Versus, what can I think about this? How can I change this thought? And that's exactly it. I'm like, just make more money.
Right. And how can I use these higher interest rates to my advantage?
Right.
As opposed to being a victim.
Exactly.
Because there are ways you can use this to your advantage.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
But you just got to change the way that you think, change the people that you're maybe hanging out with, look at different videos that you've been watching that are not helping you. That's a simple. And listen, I even get caught as well too.
Oh,
I get caught up in the news. I get caught up in especially what's been happening right now in the world. And it's very easy to get pulled into all that negativity. And it's not that I don't feel remorse. Of course I do. You know, it's terrible what's happening over in Palestine and Israel. But you also have to say, okay, what can I do there? Or can I now shift my focus on other things that I can do to change my life and maybe help other people around me?
100%. I stopped watching the news a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I did have an episode of anxiety. I went to the doctor. I'm like, there's something wrong. Something's in my throat. I need an ultrasound or something. And she's, through conversation, figured out, you have anxiety because something happened in the news that was very relatable to me and my family at the time. And I was like devastated. I didn't even know this person. But look how much feeling comes from just watching.
Yes.
And it has such a big impact on your psyche, on your body. I'm like, why am I putting my body in distress over something? Can I pray for those people? 100%, and I do every day. You know, for the whole world. I just but can I? Are these thoughts serving me or those people? No, just it's perpetuating the same, right? Yeah. So
let's get back to that whiteboard.
Yeah.
When did you believe it? Because there is a moment when you believe it.
Yes. It happens pretty quickly. So I had the things on the vision board, and because I just let go, I'm like, I'm just going to try this. And it's, the first thought that comes is like, let go and let God, right? So cliche. I don't really use that, but it just fits, right? So I just kind of let it go. I'm like, this is a vision board. I actually put it on my screensaver on my phone. So every time I picked up my phone, I look at it. So it's like an instant, like a hit. It was like an adrenaline. I'm like, oh, it would get me excited.
Oh, what you wanted.
Yes.
Nice.
And so, you know, people have their pictures of their family or whatnot, right?
I like that.
Yeah. So every time it just hit me.
I'm using that.
Okay, go
ahead.
Yeah, and every time I picked up the phone, it would just hit me, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. So the vision, I was training my brain to, even for a split second, get out of my current reality and take myself there.
Yeah.
So that was a big reason, I think, why it started working so fast, and because I was able to let go of the resistance and just kind of let it flow. And I had such a strong desire. Things were not good at home. Like, I knew I had to get my kids out of that situation. It was getting pretty urgent at this time. But because I was so open, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I have no money. I haven't had a job in 7 years. You know, I feel my self-worth is like -5 because I was made to feel I couldn't even get a job. Well, you've been a stay-at-home mom for 7 years. What the hell are you going to do? Right. How are you going to make money? Where are you going to go? Right? And so...
Yeah, so now you're hearing that voice from your partner. Right. And it's almost reassuring that you can't get out of where you are. And that's why that gym really kind of helped change your life.
I had to go, and the gym provided that space for me to have those thoughts, to be like, I'm going to the gym. This is a time I'm doing better for myself. I'm not going to think negative thoughts. My job was to train my brain, because if I was trained in one direction for 10 years, blah, 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 in your ear, you know, and you start believing those things. I'm like, I need to untrain my brain. How much time can I spend, and how many hits of that future life can I impose into my life now to bring it closer to me faster?
Right. Because
I want to live in the future. I'm like, I want to live as my future self, because I'm done living this life, right?
Now, was there something materialistic on that vision board that you had on your phone that said this thing works, or was it a state of mind? What was it?
You know, people talk often about the vision board and the manifestations and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and I laugh because my brother, he laughs at me. He's like, okay, so if I'm just going to get a toy Ferrari and look at it every day on my TV stand, I'm just going to get a toy. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. But okay. You know, I think it was the small things, and people miss this because they make such a huge goal and then they get discouraged by the time that they get there, because it's going to take time. This was a 6-year journey plus for me, right? And people are like, how did you do that? And they want one concrete answer. I'm like, well, you kind of have to feel your way there. You know, you can't just copy what somebody else did, because that's not your journey. So what started happening is synchronicities. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for little coincidences. Just make it small, right? Because if you're feeling better, good feeling things will come to you. Somebody paid for my coffee in front of me in Tim Hortons. I was like, there it is. Yes, I'm getting closer. It's coffee.
Right.
It wasn't the house. It wasn't the car. It wasn't the job. It wasn't the real estate. It was, I'm seeing signs that I have a guidance system within me, right?
That is so powerful that you're saying that.
And so looking at these things and being able to, even sometimes a thought, and often is a manifestation in itself. You put your intention into something, and, you know, it's not like someone's going to necessarily call you and offer you your dream job because you put it on your vision board. No, you have to start being in that frame of mind and being in that alignment, and having those times where you're walking in the morning and you get a lot of downloads during that time, and act on those impulses if they feel good, or be grateful for little things like the coffee, or you know, somebody called you, or this opportunity came. There's so many things that people just let it pass. I revel in that. Like, man, that guy bought me a coffee. This is awesome. Like, imagine what else the universe can do for me. Like, I'm on the path. I'm on the path. I'm going to have a good day. And I look for things that make me have a good day.
And those small things are so important, because I think, and you're right, you hit on it really good, is that a lot of times people put these big things on their vision board, and those big things can take 5, 6, 10 years. Yes. And so one of the things that I've taught people is that write down those big things that you want, but put them away and focus on the 1-year goals, and just put the smaller things that you can achieve in a year, like paying off a $500 credit card, maybe getting a pair of shoes, like just whatever it is, feeling good. But the small things first, because then that is what gets you closer. And I remember for me, I think it was the 3rd year of doing it, And I wrote down I wanted 4 investment properties. Like, this was huge now for me. And I'm like, okay, if this works, okay, I think this is it. And at the end of that year, I had 4 investment properties. Wow. And I was like, I get it. It has nothing to do with money. Yeah. It has to do with just what do I want and the why. Yes. Why do I want it? Because purpose is stronger than object. Yes. And that is when I truly believe that this is crazy. I can just write this down. I can, because then what you're doing is you're attracting it. You're attracting, and then you start pulling on the threads of the people that start coming into your life. Like, I wrote that down, so this is where this is the journey that I got to go down. This is the path that I'm supposed to take because I asked for it.
Yes. And you have conversations. You meet people, and you're like, what? Was Google listening? Like, did they send you? Right? Yeah. And those are the synchronicities I'm talking about. And following that, but unless you're in tune with yourself, you won't notice. Because I can walk down the same street at the same time as somebody else and notice 2 completely different things. 100%. Somebody will see a crime and I'll be looking at the beautiful flower arrangements in the store on my right. And you know what I mean? So what are you looking for?
Perspective.
Yeah. Right?
So let's dive into some of your businesses and what you've got going on. Not so much how you started. So I think you've done incredibly well. But what is it that you're working on right now?
So I just opened a real estate a mortgage brokerage.
Right, which is called Kingsdale Mortgage Center. Okay, yeah. So you just opened that.
Just opened that.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Had no idea it's going to take a year to get a license. It took a really long time. Okay.
And what's the goal with this now? Are you building a team?
Yeah. Okay. So building a team, scaling as quickly and efficiently as possible, and really taking all of this with me in this new venture. I feel like, when I started my development business, I was a completely different person, right? I had completely different, I was on the way. You're always kind of on the way, but you look back a couple of years like, wow, I didn't even have, I had this kind of awareness versus what I have now through experience, through self-discovery, through relationships that you build in the business, knowledge, coaches, all the things, right? And I talk about that often, and how much money I've spent. I invested in myself first, right? And so all of those things have led me to a place where I'm like, I can do the business side, and I'm so passionate, as you know, about the mindset and how that changed, because it really did change my life. And so now I'm like, I want to merge these things together.
So let's talk about everything that you've done. The merging, the development, the real estate portfolio. Yeah.
So...
Because you're busy. Mastermind classes. Like, just go through it all and let people know what you've done.
I always forget a few things because there's so many things.
I know.
So after I left my marriage, I did end up getting a job. Surprise, surprise, right? I was like, oh my gosh. I actually had hired somebody to coach me on how to do an interview. That's how worthless I felt. I'm like, I don't know how to talk to people. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? I don't have any job experience. Like, no one's going to hire me. So I had to hire a coach. Anyways, just the importance of coaches. And so I went back into the corporate world. I was in transportation, third-party logistics, whatnot. I was eventually then doing a sales, I was in sales, doing sales position. And then I joined Keyspire. That's kind of, it came on the radio. It was one of those things. This feels inspired. Let me go to the free thing, right? And then you go to the 3-day, and then and then there's another package and whatnot. And I literally gave them the last of my money. It was really expensive at the time, right, to join.
So you joined that 1-year membership.
I joined, yeah.
I think it was like $20,000 or $25,000.
I think I paid $28,000. Okay, yeah. And so that was also a decision I had to look inside for, because I was at that space. I'm like, is this for me? Yes or no? This is the last money I had in my bank account. Like, literally, like, what do I do? Okay, I have a stable job, making good money, I have a car allowance, things are good. I have a couple of investments. I just bought another pre-construction home. Like, we're getting there. Like, it was a different place than when I was when I left my marriage. And so I joined, and 3 weeks later I got laid off. And I was like, shit, I can't get my money back. I what am I going to do? Call the builder and ask for my deposit back? I know money's going to be there later. Even if I could, I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just started networking. I'm like, this is it. I paid the $28,000. I am going to talk to every single person in this group. And that's what I did. And so I met my ex-business partner, and we started a development company. And we started by buying single-family homes in the High Park area in Toronto, and we converted them to 8-unit apartment buildings. So I just jumped right in. Luckily, my partner had experience in real estate and conversions and construction, but this was the biggest project either of us have ever done. And, there was a lot of learning happening at the same time. I was learning how to raise money. It was COVID. The whole world was changing. My kids were home. So anyways, we did that. We did 8-unit apartment conversions. Then we bought a project in Kitchener that was a site plan approved land for 32 units.
These are big projects you guys are doing.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then we bought 22 acres in Hastings, and they just changed it. It's 214 units, so 97 townhomes and 3 apartment buildings.
Wow.
Yeah, so we bought that with the condition that they're going to get its draft plan approved, and then we'll take it to site plan, and then we have different exit options at that point. So that's how it started. It just right in. There was no choice. I have no child support. Right. Literally, no one's coming. I said, no one's coming to save me. Okay, right. I have to go do something about it now. Yourself. Yeah. So that was the development side, and we did a lot of things that was a really fruitful partnership, I learned how to run a business, at least at a small scale, how to start something, I had to wear all the hats. We both did. And because we were so eager to learn, even if, now you partner with someone, you're like, okay, you're doing whatever you're doing. I don't need to know what you're doing. As long as you're the best person at doing it, versus I want to learn the whole entire business. Let's learn the whole process together. Right.
So did you guys have to bring in a team to help you with it? Did you bring in any admins and operations manager?
Yes. With time too. So the first person because I said, I'm like, neither of us knew how to start a business really, right? You have all these skills and all these things from experience, but one of the first things we did is we hired a business coach, and he had nothing to do with real estate. He wasn't a real estate coach. He wasn't he's like, this is how you build a business. I don't care what business you want to open or start. I'm going to teach you the fundamentals. Right. Perfect. I didn't go to school for any of this. I have 0 post-secondary education. None. We had no money for that. Right. I had to get a job the day I left high school, right?
What was some of the important things that you learned from that business coach in starting that business that you can share with people if they were looking to start a business? Because this is, I think, pretty important for a lot of people, because a lot of businesses fail.
Yes. I think especially in real estate, specifically in real estate, people come in and, they think this is going to be a hobby. I'm like, no. You need to have these systems in place before, and you can do 1 or 2 properties on your own, but if you're actually starting a business, having someone, a big advocate of having someone that's done it before, having that mentor that sees your blind spots, because you can either pay your way there while you fail, or you can just pay the person from the beginning to help you do it. So he did a lot of this stuff for us. He set up the spreadsheets and the financials and what kind of goals and this. So really he asked us, what do you want? What do you want this business to look like? And like you were saying before, we had these big dreams, but then he would break it down to weekly objectives. And it's so important. Accountability is so important. Having the right systems. And he had all these different, now we're hiring. What do we do? Let's ask Connor, right? I don't know how to hire somebody. What do I do? Post a job, on Facebook or something. So then he was that resource for us to say, here's a contract. Here's a draft of a contract. Figure out what you need to do. Figure out the job description. Who is this? Even the job description itself. We're like, we don't know what we need. We need help. But we don't, how do I know what this, right? So he literally made us write down pages of the tasks that we do big, small, like to do it, hate to do it, doesn't matter. And then we would color code. Who does this? Who does that? Right now I'm doing this. Oh, actually, that's not my department. That's your department. He should be. Or neither of us should be doing that because there's not enough return on our time to do it. So we would bucket all those things, and then all the leftover things were the description that we needed. So I didn't know, like, this could be common sense for somebody listening, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that before I ever hired somebody.
So how many people did you guys hire?
So we had like two. We had an assistant and we had an operations manager. Yeah. And then the team, right? Then we hired coaches. We hired another coach after that for 6 months. We have consultants, planning consultants, this person, that person, right?
Yeah, so I think it's really important as well, too, just to write down what are the different things that has to be done, and then putting them in the right departments and buckets and saying, okay, this is an admin role, this is operations role, right?
That's right. That's right.
Who's documenting all this?
That's right.
What are we doing our meetings? How often should we do them? Right?
And those sound like basic things, but once, and that's how our business moved forward so quickly too, right? Because we were able to have that consistency all the time. And another thing too is, figuring out not just what you're doing, but what do you love doing? What are you really good at doing? And I know you talk about this, I don't need to know what this person's doing. I was like admiring your setup. You're like, I didn't do it. Yeah, because you're not the person, right? You don't have to do all the things. Who, not how. Yeah. And so when I joined Keyspire, one of the things that I was made to believe through that at least, 3-day weekend was you have to learn all the things. You have to learn how to do the bookkeeping. You have to learn how to do this. You have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to do. I'm like, this is crazy. Coming from a corporate background, I'm like, why am I doing accounting? You trust me, you don't want me to do it. Like, I'll admittedly, say there are somebody qualified needs to be doing this. Somebody qualified needs to be doing this. Somebody qualified needs to be doing this. And it's not me. And people are just so much happier when they're living in their zone of genius, right? Like, you're shining. Everybody can see it. Your energy's amazing. And how do you stay in those roles? And if you do want to scale, hire sooner than later, right? Versus, other people will just do it themselves. Oh, I can't hire. I can't afford yet. If you're hiring somebody, that person better be making you X amount of money for you to justify. But that's your job to figure out where they're going to fit. How are they going to make the money? They're not going to come to your business on an interview and be like, I'm going to show you how to make money. That's where the coaches and mentors and that bucket of people come in, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you started that business. You brought operations in, admin. You're doing all this development. It sounds like, though, that business is no longer there, or is it still there?
No, the business is not there. The projects are continuing now.
Okay, so the projects are continuing. Yeah. So then from there now, and what year was that? When, even though the projects are still going on?
This was 2022. So about 18 months.
So you've moved on to that, and what are you moving into now, or are there multiple things that you've moved into?
Yeah, so during that, I decided to take a bit of a breather because I had to check myself a little. I'm like, okay, I am where I am. Is this it? So I always say I'm just forever chasing my purpose, right? I'm like, is this the purpose? Is this the purpose? Do I feel like I can fulfill my purpose in what I'm doing right now? Because clearly money's not a thing. Money I can make anywhere. What is the thing that I want to do that's going to feel fulfilling to me, where I feel like I'm of service to others, and it's not just a money thing. So I took the summer off, and I was just kind of like bouncing around and really like relishing in like, holy shit, I could not have done this like 3 years ago. Like 5 years ago, I was getting coached to interview at a job for literally $45,000 a year. Like, I was like, I didn't think I was worthy of making $1, right? And now I'm taking the summer off, having yacht parties to network, like hosting different events and whatnot. I was like, this is amazing. Like, here I am.
So that was a good time for you then. So you weren't. You weren't down. You weren't sad. You weren't okay.
No, that was an incredible time. I was like, I made a decision. I knew this wasn't on. And listen, everything serves a purpose. Sometimes you meet somebody, you do business with them, or whether it be a relationship personally, you meet them, you kind of have this expansion together, right? Often, and then it kind of fizzles out, and all of a sudden you have different values, you have different. Your goals change, or whatever the case is, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to stay somewhere where you're not happy, right? So was that fulfilling for me? No. So then I started going even deeper, because I was, and back to your question, you were happy? Yes, of course I was happy. I've been practicing this whole, what we've been talking about for years at that point, right? So I'm like, this is a blessing. And our business would have done amazing. It was a hard decision to leave, right? Like, it's not like something happened and, you know, there was some crazy abrupt, just like, that's not what happened. Ultimately, I was just kept searching. And I'm like, does this feel in alignment, or is there something else? And sometimes you have to take that leap, even if you don't know what's on the other side.
Would you say that's a gut feeling? Would you say it's like an energy feeling? Would you say it's like...
I feel like it's intuition. I feel like that's something that we all are connected to, whether, like, that's my faith too, right? I'm not really religious, but I definitely believe in God and the source. And I feel like those are the answers that come to you. Again, back to when you're meditating, when you're, you know, I'm really feeling for how would I feel if I was going to do this for the next 5 years.
Right.
And then really feel that, because when you think about something, you can feel it in your body, right? And I got so attuned with myself and my emotions and how to use that as guidance, that I put myself in both those situations. If I stayed here for 5 years, or if I was to explore something that feels really passionate to me, purposeful, etc., exactly the same thing that when I made this decision to join Keyspire, I couldn't call my mom and be like, hey, should I spend $28,000 on joining a Facebook group? She'd be like, are you freaking crazy?
Yeah,
no.
Exactly.
Like, I couldn't ask anyone for advice. This was my decision, right? Should I spend the last, like, if I asked you, hey, Gary, should I spend the last money in my bank account on this group? You'd be like, are you stupid? No, right? So I had to go within myself and figure out, put myself in both positions, doing this versus not doing this.
Yeah.
And doing it felt better than not doing it. And that's just exactly the training that and the practice that I've been putting myself through.
So where did things go then after summer? What did you decide?
So I did some different things. I did some private lending deals. You know, I have all these friends in the business. You know,
so now your network is growing.
Now my network is amazing, right? Like, just I'm such a relationship person, and I really value those relationships. And I start off with more of a personal relationship, even if it's in the, like, you know, we go to networking and it's like, what do you do? What do you do? I don't want to know what you do. I want to know who you are.
Right.
Because who cares what you do? You could be the richest person in this room. I still don't care. If you're not a good person and we're not in alignment, then okay, see you later.
So important.
Right?
Yeah. And
I want to know you.
Don't just get caught up in chasing the money part of it. It's the relationship building part of it. You know, I remember I had this one joint venture when I first started off, and it was a property up in Barrie. Okay. And the best part of that investment was our drive up to Barrie, there and back, and stopping and having lunch and just talking about life and just everything. That was it. It was the personal relationship that we had.
That's right.
That was way more important to me.
That's amazing.
You know, and then when we finally sold the property, I was actually a little sad. Not like I was losing the property, but you know, those like, man, I'm gonna miss these conversations. I'm gonna miss these drives back and forth.
Yes.
Right. So you want to partner with people that are like-minded and have the same ideas and visions that you have. At least some alignment.
That's right. And I think I, at that point, had proven to myself, and I would say, I had to put all my chips on myself. There was nothing else to bet on. Nobody was coming, right? So if I knew I did it and I succeeded, and I was relishing, you know, in the summer, having the time with my kids, going to the pool at Lifetime almost every day, I was like, this is amazing. If I could do this, what do I want to do next, and who do I want to do it with? Because now the option is mine. The opportunities are everywhere. Like, at this point, people were calling me like, oh, come do this, come do this, come do this. I'm like, are you the right person? Are you the right person? It's like dating, right?
Yeah.
And so I did some different things. I had a lot of fun. We did some fun business, you know, private lending, smaller projects, this and that. And I love throwing events, networking. I love building community, all that sort of stuff. And you know,
I know I was at a distance watching some of those events. It looks like so much fun.
I know, so much fun.
I was like, who's Ilona? Who are all these people? Where are all these mastermind events they're doing? Where's my invite?
Yeah. So we did the Miami mastermind.
That was awesome. I liked watching what you guys were doing there, and it just looked so uplifting and powerful, right? For women, and you guys had some badass women down there.
We did. Yeah, the speakers were incredible. Everybody was on board, and again, because we went into creating that with such intention. Like Adriana's one of my dearest friends. I love her so much.
Yes.
And we started taking trips to Miami. We were like, just gonna, actually the first time we went to go see Abraham Hicks. And we went and we had this beautiful weekend of just creation and brainstorming. And like you said, driving up to Barrie, like just those fruitful conversations with someone that's on the same level as you. And then we're like, we need to expand this. We need to have other women come and be a part of this conversation.
I remember those videos. I remember because I think you guys were just on a patio or you were somewhere, and it was like it was almost like as if you were kind of peeking into this window of what you guys were starting to create.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, these guys are doing something. What are they doing? You almost see the brewing of it.
Yes.
And it was kind of cool to see it, and then all of a sudden you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's incredible. And you know, that's the thing, when you put intention, that kind of intention, and this is what I do with everything that I do now. I'm like, I want to make sure that this is, and we admittedly on those videos, like we didn't have all the answers, and that's okay. But the thought and the idea and the dream was so inspired that there was no chance it was going to fail.
Yeah.
Zero. How? When two people bring that much energy to make a difference, there's literally no other option besides attracting the right people to come. Because it's one thing to sell tickets to a room full of 1,000 people. Who cares if everybody gets along or not, right? We had 16 people and 2 of us, you know, already going. So 14 people. That was an interesting, you know, way to host an event. Usually I'll just host an event and I'll just sell tickets and, you know, come one, come all. But even the fact that the right people came, the right people that were ready, right? The right people that wanted to give. All these women wanted to, like, not only did they share so vulnerably, they poured their hearts out into each other, right? Like what happened in those walls will never leave those walls. It was a profound experience. And that's the type of energy I want to take into any business venture. The money, I don't care. You can tell me tomorrow we'll make $100 million doing da-da-da-da. This is a business. I don't care. If it doesn't align with my purpose, I don't want to do it.
All right. It's the journey. It's the intent, the fun that you're having as well too. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes I think people, you know, put themselves in some situations where it's like, oh man, you know, why does this always happen to me? And they use those negative words that just keeps them down. And so, you know, you've really changed your life, which is actually incredible to see and watch and witness.
Thank you.
You know, and that's why you're here. I wanted to share that story.
Thank
you know,
you.
I think it's incredible what you've done. And so then from this mastermind event, it sounds like you're probably going to do another one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to do another one.
So then after that, what happened next? And that's when now you created your Kingsdale Mortgage Center.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that just launched?
Yeah.
How long ago?
It's been a couple weeks now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't even know what day it is today. It's just crazy. Because we've been talking about it for a year, right?
Yeah.
Preparing, doing things, and just waiting for the license. And it's been a lot of fun. So it's been under wraps for a long. Again, I've been working on it for a year, but I was kind of just floating. I didn't want to say anything. Like, you know, I'm going to keep this one to myself and just announce it when it's there. But yeah, even the way that partnership, because I have a business partner on that brokerage, and even the way that that all came about was just like, that's the thing. Once you get it, all of these stories become amazing because how there's almost no logical way to explain them, right? And so you do feel inspired when same thing with me. I feel inspired when I hear these stories from other people. And I'm like, how did you do it? You know, I'm like, oh my God, there's another example.
So what's the game plan with this now? Are you going to bring in, like, you're trying to build a big team, a small team, just a select team?
Big team, big team. Like, because when I do things, I just like to go all out, you know? Like,
and when we say big, what are you talking, like 50 mortgage agents, 100?
Like 5,000.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. Like, let's go. Let's go.
That's amazing. Okay, so you have an office right now that's set up?
In Richmond Hill, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. And are you going to be focusing on real estate investors or just anybody? Anybody who's looking to buy their dream home? Everybody
that, you know, that we can serve 100%. And really anyone that wants to come and join the team too, that wants to make money, that wants to, like, my partner is incredible. Like, he is seriously, we've been building a relationship for like 2.5 years. He owns a real estate brokerage. And he brought us one of the deals that we ended up purchasing in our other business. And then since then, we started building this relationship.
Right.
And over the years, you start seeing, wow, again, like we're saying, this is a person of integrity. This is a person that's spiritual. This is a person that has these types of skills, but also these kinds of goals, and they're in alignment. And so we did a lot of that, like, quote unquote courting, like not personally, right? Like, totally business relationship. He's happily married. But we had these experiences together when I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense to get into business with somebody like this. It's like brilliant mind, but also humble, good, genuine human being, right? Because otherwise I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have, you know, at this point in my life, there's no time to waste, right?
What are some of the big mistakes that you've made along this journey? Mistakes, failures, slip-ups, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Experiences. You know, a lot of people will call them experiences, but
you
know, what are some
lessons?
Yeah.
I think the obvious ones are losing money, lending money on a P note, for example. Like, you know, lost a lot of money doing that.
Yeah.
And
what's a P note, just for people who are
a
listening?
promissory note.
Promissory note.
Yeah, promissory note.
So it's not like a
no
first
security,
or second mortgage. You're just saying, hey, you promised to pay me back.
It's an IOU on an app.
And it's not tied to anything.
Zero.
Yeah. Okay. So be careful.
Yeah. Although I did do something after that, again, with a really close friend of mine that we didn't even need, like, you know, here you go, vice versa, like super close. But anyways, that was a big hit, obviously, for me. But because of my mindset, I was like, okay, make more money, whatever. Yeah. Right? Like, what am I going to do? Dwell and knock on this guy's door for the next 5 years crying about how I lost all this money? Like, it is what it is. My fault, right? And then, I think the only mistake I think that I can make is not acting in accordance with my inner being. That's it. Because
how do you know when you're listening to your inner being? I think that's a difficult thing sometimes for some people. Like, okay, is that my gut talking? Is that my inner being? Is that just intuition? How do you know? Do you just
Again, I think the practice is so important to be familiar, right? And we talked about having anxiety with different substances and because people go so deep into themselves that they don't, it's scary in there sometimes. So getting comfortable with who you are and spending enough time with yourself to build that relationship with yourself first, right? Because then you'll hear it. You'll hear the intuition and you can really decipher then, is this a fear? Is this a belief that I need to change? Is this, what is this negative emotion? So when I feel something that's negative, or when I'm trying to make a decision or decipher, like you said, is this my intuition? Is this a negative belief I have? You know, what kind of emotion am I feeling? For example, even with the mortgage brokerage, I have some fears. I'm still human. Like, I'm not saying I have this all figured out. Like, don't get me wrong. It's easy to sit here on, you know, having a great conversation with you, but there are still things that happen every day and contrasts that we experience. So I'll give you an example. You know, the fear of the brokerage not working out. Right? Something that I'm sure a lot of people will feel in my business is not going to work out, the new job is not going to work out, my marriage is not going to work out. And so I stop and I think, okay, this is uncomfortable, because once you start thinking about, oh my God, what if this doesn't work out? It's going to be so embarrassing. My reputation's going to be ruined. What if these people don't this and this and this? Or what if I can't, you know, train them well enough and then they're not making money and I'm not going to feel bad? And all of a sudden, all of these thoughts come, right? Yes. And I'm like, whoa. And sometimes you get stuck there. And sometimes it takes days. But the better at it you are, the more and incrementally you can shorten that distance and that time that you're actually in those thoughts. Yeah. Because I could stay there and start calling all my friends, be like, oh my God, what if this doesn't work out? And if my friends weren't who they were, they'd be like, yeah, what if that doesn't, don't try that. You know, like if I called my mom and told her I was buying this property for $3 million, she'd be like, are you crazy? No, don't do that. You know, you're borrowing money from all these people. How are you going to pay them back? Oh, wrong person to call, right? Right. Love her to death. But so I'll sit with that thought. Okay, why am I feeling uncomfortable? Because that makes me feel physically uncomfortable. Thinking of the brokerage failing, for example, right? That's a hard pill to swallow. So I'm like, what is this feeling? Awareness is number one. I'm aware that I'm feeling this way. And then number two, what is causing this feeling? My thoughts, obviously. But what am I thinking about that's causing me to feel this way? Is this, number one, is this true? Is this a belief that I hold? Has this happened before? Where is this coming from? And then deciding, do I want to continue this train of thought or do I want to take a different train? Is this train of thought serving me?
Right.
Or can I change the direction and think, I've done this before. I've not maybe a brokerage, but I've succeeded before. I've shown myself that I can do the things that I set out to do. I know I have good intentions. Whether I make mistakes or not, that's okay. It's part of the journey. And because my intentions are good, I'll figure it out and people will understand and people will be attracted. Even the people that I'm interviewing now, I wish I could record my interviews. Like, maybe I should. I'm like, maybe I should. You know, I have phone interviews first and the alignment in the conversations is crazy. Yeah. I'm like, how? I don't even know you. This person recommended you from that person, from that person, from that person. And we're in complete alignment. It's crazy. They're excited. I'm excited. They're ready to build the vision, right? So awareness, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it is good to go through those feelings of fear. Like even when I'm expanding and I'm growing, there's lots of fear that I go through as well too. And sometimes I'll wake up at 4 a.m. out of my sleep. And I'm like, why am I building this new business? Why am I growing this new team? But really what it is it's allowing you to, well, what you said, 1, awareness, 2, am I going on the right path? And 3, this is it just working on my mental toughness? I've been here before. Oh, okay, I'm just lifting. That's all. I'm lifting and training and I'm pushing a little further outside of my comfort zone.
That's right.
Okay, and then you just say, okay, yes, I want to continue to do this.
Yes.
But it's good though that at least you're aware of it. But you shouldn't always just like, oh well, there's fear there, so that means I shouldn't do it. And you got to lean into it sometimes. Yes. But it's just really saying, hey, are you going in the right path?
Yeah, you have to diagnose yourself.
Yeah.
Right? There's nobody else that can do it for you.
And we all go through it.
Yes.
All people who have businesses that are successful, they all go through it. And it's an important path and training to put yourself through.
I think that's why it's important for us to be vulnerable. Like we are, like you asked me to be here because I'm like somebody, you know, I remember somebody was on my Instagram and I had cleaned it up and I deleted a bunch of things and they're like, do you just hang out on yachts all day? Is that like your daddy's money or something? I'm like, if you only knew.
Oh, really?
You know, like if you only knew.
Because they only see that.
Right? So I think it's really important to know, like, you know, Gary's a super successful guy. Oh my God, he has fear. That's crazy. A lot of people might not know that, right? Like,
you know what we should start doing? I should just start recording myself when I'm down and depressed. Like, you know when you go,
yes. You know what's crazy? I was scrolling mindlessly yesterday, admittedly.
Yeah.
You know, my son had just fallen asleep right next to me. And I was just scrolling. I had just read my book. And I saw this woman posting about her and her baby. Like she has a newborn, she has 4 kids and a newborn, and this baby has colic. And she's a content creator and, you know, and she's sharing the journey of the craziness. And there's like, fast forwards, 1:30 in the morning, 2:45 in the morning, 2:55 in the morning, 3:05 in the morning, like having the worst time of her life. Like poor woman, I like so feel for her because I've been there. But you should see the amount of people that are not only supporting her, but that she's helping at 3 a.m. while they're scrolling, having a fit, or just feeding their baby. Right. And because it's so relatable, right? Oh my gosh, she has like, I don't know, 12 million followers. People think she's perfect, right? And most people wouldn't share that something that's so vulnerable. But we all go through it. It's not like when you're rich, your baby doesn't cry, right?
And I think it's important to show that side of the story as well too. You know, a lot of times if I do post on here's a mistake that I made or here's where I failed, those are the ones that actually get more likes. Those are the ones that actually get more shares because I'm showing them that it's not all roses and I've made mistakes. And even if I go and I do a talk, I always start off with saying the only reason why I'm up here talking is I just made more mistakes. I've made more, but I've gotten up. But I've failed because I keep trying different things. Like, you know, at the end of the year, I might try like 100 different things and 2 or 3 work, or they really do well. And I'm like, all right. So I'm just making more. Yeah, and you just got to keep.
And when something hits, people think you're lucky.
Right.
And they're like, oh man, that guy's lucky.
Yeah.
They weren't there for the whole year of trying things.
Right. Well, what's the saying? It's like, yeah, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So good.
Ilona, I've enjoyed this conversation with you. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on, or last piece of advice that you'd want to share with anybody that's listening to this, is saying, hey, you know what, maybe they're not in a good place right now. Maybe they are down. Maybe they are depressed with everything that's happening in the world and inflation and. You know, what's your advice that you'd give somebody?
I think,
right now?
you know, and my friends say this too about me. Sometimes I give advice that people don't want to hear, but it's the most important ones. I think, you know, once you realize that it's all you, and you stop blaming others or, you know, the rates or the wars or whatever, you can have any experience you want in this life. You know, and once you realize that only you are in control of how you feel, you'll really start being more selective with what you're thinking about, who you're spending your time with, the things that you're reading and whatnot, because a lot of people walk around blaming everything, everybody but themselves. And you really need to look inside and realize only you are in control of your life. And when I see an unhappy person that's chronically unhappy, the first thing I think to myself is they lack the discipline with their thoughts.
Yeah.
You can really choose how you feel. You can choose the experience in your life. And you can choose being happy in every moment. And that's my wish for everybody. Just go out, live an amazing life, and the things that will make you happy are different than you know, what somebody else might do, and that's okay. You know, stop judging people, stop gossiping about people, just do you. Improve yourself a little bit every single day, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with what you just said anymore. It's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for coming into the studio and doing this. And it's been, listen, this is the beginning of our relationship.
Yes.
All right. So if you want to learn more about you and your businesses, or maybe they need a mortgage.
Oh, we need a mortgage.
Yes. How can they get a hold of you?
I think the easiest way is my Instagram. I check that the most often. It's Ilona Koziol.rei.
All right. Beautiful.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Awesome.
That was awesome. Oh, now I can't hear my voice.
Yes, I know.
That was so much fun.
It was.